significance of testing in e-mobility ecosystem. I think somebody already raised a point saying that the burning of batteries are there, and now Arvind also told that there could be a problem with the inverters burning soon. So I think some of the things can be compensated by proper testing of the things, and I believe unfortunately in Indian scenario the testing is taken much less compared to any other things. I hope you can give us some gyan on that. I invite Mr. Sadaf. He is the General Manager for the Industrial Marketing for Keysight Technologies. I think Keysight, you know, one of the pioneer in the testing side.
Very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Sadaf Siddiqui, and firstly thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Now in the morning we had some very interesting, I would say, sessions around, let's say, charging and then power inverters, and some of you raised a question around the safety concerns or a vehicle catching fire. So as sir also mentioned, that I'll take a sort of another perspective on how we can maybe reduce these incidents and probably move in this particular direction in a better manner. Just to give a very quick introduction again, like I'm coming from Keysight Technologies and I've been working with this company for last 14 years. We are primarily into test and measurement. And when I say test and measurement, it's anything electronics and now on the electrical side also when we talk about e-mobility. So before I talk in particular about e-mobility, I'll just take a step back and highlight how exactly we are progressing in this particular very interesting automotive domain, because there are two major transformation or changes what we are seeing in this particular segment. So if we just maybe look back into this particular segment around 2 or 3 decades back, it was highly mechanical in nature, but slowly it's progressing towards electromechanical and more of, I would say, very electronics focused industry. And also we are seeing another very interesting perspective that these internal combustion engines, like we are talking about now electric vehicle or e-mobility domain, which is bringing a very different perspective. So if you look into this particular slide, this is more around the another perspective on the electronics being embedded, and we are talking about things like automotive radars, which can bring in a lot of safety aspects in these particular vehicles. We are talking about tens of sensors being embedded into this particular vehicles, be it your four-wheelers or high-end wheelers, which used to be a sort of component only in the high-end cars, but now it's sort of becoming a standard in most of the cars. And sir talked about like V2X, which will be another very interesting perspective wherein your vehicle will be talking to almost everything, be it pedestrians on the roads, be it vehicle to vehicles, be it vehicle to traffic. You will be able to communicate from one vehicle to another vehicle. So these are some very interesting transformation which are happening on that front. The second front definitely, which is the theme for this particular show, is on the e-mobility side. Now e-mobility is something which we have been witnessing or talking or hearing for last 4 or 5 years. And this is not just one piece of transformation at one particular edge, but you will see in this particular slide the massive transformation which is happening and which is required almost across the industry. So be it on the grid side, where now we are talking about a smart grid management, smart charging, then we are talking about entirely new charging stations. We are talking about things like fast charging and all. Then we are talking about some very innovative technologies on the vehicle side, because while we say that battery is the heart of the system, but definitely a massive amount of work which is happening on that particular field is starting from the cell level. So we heard about the new design chemistries which is happening on the cell level, then cells getting packed into a module. We are talking about battery packs, those sort of things. We heard some very interesting things about power inverters, for example. Then we also have something called as BMS, battery management system, where exactly the intelligence is sitting on that particular component. So again, like we are talking about n number of things which are happening and which is required across this particular industry. Now, few things which we keep on hearing, that while we are talking about a massive transformation in this space, we as a consumer, we still have some sort of question marks in our minds. Like we always talk about what will be the mileage, what will be the range which will be supported, and we heard about these things also. Then we are also sort of bit curious about the charging times. We are talking about the safety things now. Because in last few years, while we saw a major push from the industry as well as the government, some of us, we were sort of in a hurry to really launch the products by just assembling few pieces and without doing a proper testing. And unfortunately, because of that, we are seeing maybe n number of incidents happening, be it your two-wheelers, be it three-wheelers, be it four-wheelers, might overlap, or there might be some different test requirements. So for example, at the charging, we are talking about, let's say if we have a different sort of vehicle, how exactly it will communicate. Because in the very first session, we heard about that these charging or different standards, it's not like a dumb charging what is happening. We are talking about different communication protocols. We are talking about different charging standards also, like CHEDEMO, and even in India, we now have a custom standard, Bharat standard. So we are talking about those things. Then at the battery level, like how much charging time or how much discharge time is there. So all those battery profiling, cell profiling sort of a thing. So different testing requirements, different test solutions which are required. Just very quickly, I'll touch upon two main things, which is again, I would say very crucial for us in India. So one is on the battery side. Now, battery, as we all say, this is the heart of the entire ecosystem. And as we continue to hear that, be it your two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, or now we are talking about heavy-duty trucks also. So we are talking about how exactly we can build up an ecosystem which is sort of modular or is scalable in nature, because right now we might be working on, let's say, a battery which is suitable for two-wheeler. But then moving forward, as we are talking about fast charging, for example, or we are talking about new things, new end products like maybe trucks, where we heard that we will talk about very fast megawatt charging, those sort of things. So we really need to have a complete knowledge, a complete database around that. Then we also want to have very optimized test process, because again, there are different test conditions, there are different test cases. And again, if you see Indian geography, like somewhere in the region, we have extreme temperatures, like temperatures maybe touching around 50, 55 degrees, and somewhere it's like in really negative conditions, like -5, -10, even lower than that. So we really have to look into all these environmental conditions. We also have to optimize our particular investment so that while we are talking about n number of products, we also have a facility which can suit to all these different needs. So just very quickly from a Keysight perspective, and I won't spend much time over here, but as I was talking about different test requirements and all, we have different sorts of test platforms which are available right now very much in India. Some of the test labs, some of the OEMs, they have started using it and they are seeing the benefits also. So I would encourage, if any of you are working in this particular direction, we have a booth, do visit us. We have our technical experts also, so we can talk about some of these things. Coming to the second very critical aspect on the charging side, on the charging stations, for example. Now charging again, so there are 2 or 3 conditions. One is we are talking about different charging standards, for example. And again, like where exactly your vehicle is coming from, because each of these regions like Americas or Asia Pacific or China or Europe, they are having their own set of standards. Even in India, now we have our own particular standard. But the idea is, while we want to support all these different vehicles, we also want to see from a charging station perspective that your charging station should be able to support all these different standards. Because if you look into any of these standards, there is a difference in terms of the form factor of these plugins. So the challenge is like how exactly we ensure the interoperability between the charging station and the vehicle. Then we also talk about fast charging, which is really a very interesting thing coming up. We talk about AC charging, we talk about DC charging. So again, different sets of requirements which needs to be addressed, which needs to be tested so that we are again having a confidence in this particular mechanism. So highlighting a glimpse of some of these test equipments again from a charging station perspective. So let's say if you are someone who are more on the charging station side, so while you are designing all these stations, you may want to emulate the vehicles in your lab, or maybe someone who is more on the vehicle side, they may want to emulate the charging station characteristics. The third type of requirement is we may also want to test the communication protocol, because this is something very unique. We heard about things like cyber security and those sort of things. We don't want any hackers to hack these sort of things. So again, different test requirements which are needed, and then different test solutions which are available to address all these needs. So these are some pictures. Now again, I don't want to sort of create any fear in your minds that this is looking very complicated, very heavy duty investment, but the idea is, while we may say that testing can be very simple, but the number of incidents which are happening across various geographies, the idea is please don't take testing very lightly. Do look into various test conditions, do look into various environmental conditions, because let's say if you bring in a battery from a particular region A, which is not really touching the extremes of 50-55 degrees, but in India, while you launch the vehicles using those batteries, definitely you will have some challenges. So look into all those aspects. Talk to us, because we are working very closely with different standard bodies. We are working very closely with OEMs worldwide. We are working very closely with test labs and also the researchers on how exactly we can sort of optimize all these test conditions, and then also we look into all the investment aspects. So this is it from my side. Again, if there are any one or two quick questions, maybe I can address that. Otherwise, you are most welcome to visit our booth, Keysight booth, and we have some equipments on display, so we can have a discussion over there also. Thank you so much.
Any questions? I have one question.
Sure.
So how much it costs that testing the equipment? Because in India, I mean, any designing and the development cost itself is also very cost conscious.
Correct.
Sure,
Exactly.
Also, I think you also must be having the same thing, right?
Yes, yes.
You want to develop your hardware. I think the costing of these instruments is going very high compared to the R&D cost.
Definitely. So this is a very appropriate question. So thanks for asking this. So see, testing, I would say it's an investment for any of us. Okay. Now, when this particular industry was evolving and people, they started working on this, so we were asked this question. And whenever we quoted the pricing, people were really sort of having very high doubts that why so costly equipments and all, and they sort of compromised on that, and then now we are seeing all these incidents happening. But to answer in a simple manner, so all these test equipments, these are first and foremost scalable and modular in nature. So that means while you start working on this, so you can go for some basic configuration, and then with phases, you can really upgrade your systems so that your investments are also protected. And then it's not like a one-time burden basically. So all these solutions, as I mentioned, these are highly scalable, modular in nature. So maybe you can start with some basic investment, continue upgrading it as you are also evolving on the facilities and those sort of things. Yeah. Thank you.
In fact, they are modular systems. In fact, I had an opportunity in the last Vision Summit. It's interesting products. I think you have some software only kind of products also, which you can even remotely operate the hardware and test it. Thank you once again. May I request Devender ji to come over the dais and thank you, Sadaf.